Jacksonville Jaguars, man. They're interviewing a handful of people. All the big names, essentially. You have the Lions defense coordinator and their offensive coordinator being interviewed. Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, the Bucks offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, sucks ass. He's being interviewed as well. Todd Munkin, the Ravens offensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, the Raiders defense coordinator, Robert Saleh, former Jets head coach, and Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator, is also being interviewed for that position in Jacksonville. So, a couple questions for you, Drew. One, how enticing is this job in Jacksonville? Two, are any of those names are the names who are going to get hired? Who do you see mainly getting hired there? What's the outlook for Jacksonville?
You know what? I think the roster is supremely talented. I think there's questions about, um, God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think there's questions about Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Not that's not the part. So I think that you bring in a head coach, a young head coach that can get one on one with Trevor Lawrence, a guy that can, when
Yeah.
things are going bad on the sideline, can go over to him and talk him through what's going on. And I think that what a lot of people would say is that's Ben Johnson, but there's better jobs out there and it's not going to be Ben Johnson. I think, as random as this may sound, and you can stitch together the things where I've been critical of this man this season, but Shad Khan is a dumpster fire of an owner. Trent Baalke is a dumpster fire of um, a general manager. So they're going to need a player, a guy, a head coach that's a little desperate for the job.
Yeah.
And I think this might be a situation where you might see someone like Kellen Moore take this
Mm,
as the head coaching position. Super young play caller. I know I'm with you. I'm with
yeah.
you. But I just think that's the situation that the Jaguars have found themselves in.
Yeah, I don't think looking at it from the way that you're looking at it in terms of the desperateness of the Jacksonville Jaguars and people maybe not wanting to take the job so much, I think that's definitely a line of thinking. I think the ideal candidate for them would be like a Todd Munkin. What Lamar Jackson has done over the past 2 years. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's Lamar Jackson. Big advocate for Lamar Jackson over here. Both of us. But man, what he has done has been next level this year, and a lot of it has been the Todd Munkin offense, being comfortable in it. Um, and you have Trevor Lawrence, locked up for the next couple of years. So if it takes until year 2 to get comfortable with an offense like that, and then you can see performance out of it, the Jacksonville isn't 1 year away from making the playoffs, 2 years, maybe, but I think that'd be the ideal candidate. Kellen Moore, with Drew's line of thinking, I think definitely 100% makes sense. What about the
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, you're welcome. Fuck off. Um, Chicago Bears are interviewing a slew of people. Drew Petzing, Cardinals offensive coordinator, Brian Flores, we all know. Arthur Smith, we all know. Ben Johnson, obviously mentioned already. Aaron Glenn, already mentioned. Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins defensive coordinator. Pete Carroll, actually. Mike Kafka, the Giants offensive coordinator. Mike Vrabel, big name, obviously. David Shaw, former Stanford head coach and current Broncos senior personal executive. Todd Munkin, once again, and Joe Brady again. So Chicago, once again, same questions. Um, but I think for Chicago, this is a super enticing job, right? You look at the roster front to back, and you look at what they have on paper. It's talent out the ass. You have a young quarterback with all the talent in the world. Still passed for 3,600 yards. He didn't throw a whole lot of picks on the year. His touchdown interception ratio was not bad at all. Man, the offensive line is horrible. I think this is a team that you want to look for a guy that is going to be really good with the quarterback position because there was some stuff that Caleb had to work through. He's like rated the worst quarterback on like evading pressure. Um, and it's not because of his athleticism. It's due to his decision making. It's due to his pocket presence this year. Playing in structure is something that a lot of people were concerned about with Caleb moving into his rookie season. I think some of that definitely proved. So I think you're looking at guys like this would be a very, very enticing position for a guy like Ben Johnson because again, it's a lot of talent around this roster. So Ben Johnson, I definitely think would be a pretty spot on guy to go hire out. Todd Monken, I've obviously mentioned as well, or Joe Brady. Any one of those three guys, I think, if we're looking at it from the quarterback positioning, um, I wouldn't be surprised if they went with a defensive guy and Brian Flores got brought over as well, though. Where do you kind of see this going?
I think it's Ben Johnson. I don't
Yeah.
think there's any type of honestly, if I was the Chicago Bears and we put their ownership in the doghouse, I put their ownership in the doghouse earlier
Yeah.
this season. This is what I would do. I would call up Ben Johnson. I would hire him immediately, and then I would call up Robert Saleh, and I would bring him in as the defensive coordinator. He's going to interview with the 49ers for their defense coordinator. I don't think we're going to go that route. Um, that's what I would do. I would get the absolute best young offensive coordinator out there and bring him in to help Caleb because that defense is that defense is that defense. That
Yeah.
you can go get a Mike Zimmer to run that defense. You can go get, you know, any name your defensive coordinator, you could go get him. I think Ben Johnson is the answer there.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%. Now
And
looking
I don't know what job that's out there that Ben Johnson would want more. If you take money off the
outside of
table,
this, no.
if the Bears are going to play, what's got the best young offensive team?
Yep.
I don't.
No, 100%.
So
Yeah, when you look at the candidates of Jacksonville, Chicago, New England, New Orleans, New York, and Las Vegas, it's head and shoulders Chicago's job opening is the most enticing out of all of them and the most sought after coach, um, offensive coordinator in the league right now. He should have first pickings on that. And right now that's going to be Ben Johnson. And then right behind him, if we're talking about offensive coordinators, probably it's probably Joe Brady. So between both those guys, I think they have their kind of pick of litter. I think Joe Brady might stay an extra year. Actually, I don't know if he's actually going to go anywhere else if he doesn't get his pick.
I'm with you on Joe Brady 100%. My thing is if I'm Joe Brady, I'm not taking that Jags job. I'll wait another
Oh no,
year
yeah,
with my quarterback I got now. I'll look good for another year.
mhm,
That's why I picked the Kellen Moore because it's like Ben Johnson ain't taking that job. You know what I'm
no,
saying? Like, do you want to give it? Do you want to get, the Jags randomly? Bobby Slowick, the Houston Texans offensive coordinator, was fantastic last year, dealt with injuries this year. That might be the type of first time young head coach that takes the Jags job, a Kellen Moore type situation, in my opinion. But yeah, Ben Johnson has his pick of the litter, in my opinion, and he should pick the Bears.
yeah, I'm with you 100%. Next up, we have the New England Patriots, and only a couple of names here. Hamilton, longtime NFL assistant head coach. Brian Leftwich, former Bucks offensive coordinator. Ben Johnson, and then finally Mike Vrabel. Yep,
I have
Mike,
no other words on this. They're
absolutely,
hiring Mike Vrabel.
and they should. With the quality of coach that Mike Vrabel is, I think he instills. The Patriots are looking for a guy who can instill a culture into the Patriots locker room. And Mike Vrabel
Yes.
brings that to a team. What he did with Tennessee was fantastic. 100%. And because fucking dumbass Titans organization heads, they did not like Mike Vrabel. If you don't know the story of Mike Vrabel and what happened with the ownership and the back and forth, you got to go look it up because it's Mike Vrabel got screwed. He didn't get what he wanted on getting some more control over that team, even though he proved head and shoulders
And
above
they
that he was.
fired the GM now.
Yep.
So you punted Vrabel. Now I think their coach they got, I think he's a good head coach. So
Yes.
I'm not, but you punted Vrabel to keep the GM and now you got rid of the GM. So both
Mhm.
the guys are gone. How does that make sense? It's just
Yep.
stupid.
Yep. And they also didn't like his comments. There was some type of Patriots, like talking. He was speaking at a Patriots event because obviously former Patriots linebacker, and he said comments. His main comments that they had a problem with apparently were you fans should appreciate what you have here. There's not another organization out there like it. And when he was asked about it and he got sat down by ownership, what did you mean by that? He was like, they've won like 6 Super Bowls. What do you mean? That's all I meant. They're Super Bowl champs. That's all I meant by it. And they got their panties in a bunch about that. And it kind of started this downhill like slide over these stupid fucking comments. And you lost a really good head coach. And you fired him after the fact of like when all the hiring jobs were already like all the open positions were already filled up. So you did it on purpose. So fuck these guys. Yeah.
And that shit is so dumb. If you can't look yourself in the mirror and accept your own criticisms, like, listen,
So stupid.
I know for a fact that your wife loves you, but Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt, dog. Like, it just is what it is. That dude that played in the new Bob Dylan movie, Timothy
Chalamet, yeah.
Chalamet, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that. Those dudes are those dudes. Like, we just, we don't box, and we can't box Muhammad Ali. It just
Right.
is what it is. Like, Tennessee Titans, you guys are literally a dumpster fire compared to the New England Patriots of
Yep.
last year and before. It's one of the greatest organizations in sports. Like, you're
Yep.
talking about, you know, it's it just is what it is. You're talking about the Patriots, you're talking about the Chiefs, you're talking
Yep.
about, up until a couple years ago, the San Antonio Spurs. Like, these are just world renowned, well known, well ran organizations. And to get your
Yep.
panties in a bunch over that is just, it's a joke. So yeah, Vrabel, Patriots head coach. I'm honestly surprised that it hasn't popped up as breaking news already.
Yep.
So I know the NFL has really pushed back the hiring cycle. They really want to give these other teams a chance. That's part of the reason why the 49ers have been struggling in the past couple of years to bring on a really good defensive coordinator, because they come out of NFC championship games and everybody's hired. So yeah, Vrabel to the Patriots.
Absolutely. Looking now at probably one of the most undesirable jobs in the league, and that is the New Orleans Saints. Not a whole lot here as well in terms of names that have been announced that are being interviewed. Aaron Glenn, once again, Joe Brady, once again, Kellen Moore, once again, David Shaw, just a reminder, former Stanford head coach and current Broncos personal executive. And then familiar face, Darren Rizzi, the Saints interim head coach, also getting an interview as well. Man, is there
This is
is
this
there
is the
is there a job that's less desirable than this one out of all 6 positions?
that's why this is the Aaron Glenn job, in my opinion. That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I personally, I think the Jets is less desirable than this, but because New Orleans, you don't have to deal with the media.
The
But
media
I
of it,
I
that's
have
fair, yeah.
I at the Saints job and at the Jets job, I have two guys that are going to need to take a gamble on an opportunity because their stock isn't super high. Um, Everybody's super high on Aaron Glenn. Um, I know his defense had a ton of injuries this year, so it sounds like he's going to get hired this cycle, and it seems
Yeah.
like it would have to be one of the lower end teams if he's going to get, you know, brought on.
Yeah, I'm there with you, because again, the desirability of the job is in the toilet. You have no franchise quarterback sitting there at this point. Um, you don't know if Chris Olave is gonna stay healthy or not because the concussion issues have gone all the way back to Ohio State, at this point, and Derek Carr throws a hospital ball, so there's that as well. The offensive line is just untalented. Alvin Kamara sells his house in New Orleans. You're not sure if he's going to really be staying or what his plans are for the future. What if he wants to be there? What's going on with that situation? Not a whole lot of talent sitting around there. So I don't know who really wants this job. That's kind of the issue right now. Um, so yeah, I think an Aaron Glenn, but I also think one of those guys like a David Shaw could definitely get his hands inside of this. But also on top of that, no cap space. Like negative $50 million in cap space to start the year, lowest in the NFL. Only I think 3 teams, 4 teams are negative in cap space entering the offseason. The Saints, the Browns, the Seahawks, and the Dolphins are all in negative cap space sitting here currently today. Oregon into the offseason is what I mean by that. So yeah, not a desirable job at all. Moving into the New York Jets position, as Drew put it, also not a desirable position. Dealing with the media of New York, what you're going to do with the quarterback situation there. But the roster's pretty damn talented, so at least you have that going for you. And you're not negative $50 million in cap space. You at least have $28 million to work with a little bit, and you don't have to all spend it on a quarterback. Kind of hand in hand. It's all right. Um, Interviews with Mike Vrabel, Ron Rivera, Rex Ryan. Jesus. They also have names out there like Arthur Smith, Joe Brady, Brian Flores, Josh McCown, Bobby Slowick, Aaron Glenn, Vance Joseph, Matt Nagy, Brian Greasy, and Darren Rizzi. So a lot of familiar names that they're interviewing at the very least. Is this the Bobby Slowick job? Is this where you think that this is, or do you have another name for this?
This is the Flores job.
Oh, this is the Flores job. Okay.
Yeah. keep in mind, this man's got a lawsuit against the NFL.
Mhm.
And you don't, I don't think you do that if you want to succeed at the highest levels. I believe that his lawsuit has merit. I believe everything that he says in his lawsuit, but when you come out against an ownership like that, I think he's a good coach. I think he's been a
Sure.
good coach this year.
Absolutely.
But I think if he wants a job, he's going to have to scrape the bottom of the barrel.
Mm.
Um, Type job. And a lot of people might say, but Drew, what about the Raiders? That's bottom of the barrel. Well, listen about the Raiders. This is Las Vegas. This is Tom Brady has full power over this right now. This is clearing the front office. This is clearing, and Tom Brady's going to put the phone calls in. He's going to bring somebody in. He's going to bring in a well-respected GM. He's going to bring in a well-respected. This isn't Robert Saleh as the head coach of the Raiders. Okay, this isn't Vance Joseph as the head coach of the Raiders. Okay, that's not what we're going to see here. We're going to see a tier one GM candidate and a tier one head coaching candidate for the Raiders. So
Yep.
if Flores wants a job, in my opinion, it is the Jets.
Yep. I think this is that, or I mentioned the Slowick job as well. I'm not sure what the if you compare last year to this year on how much the Slowick hype was, it's a lot lower this year. Obviously, the offensive line play terrible. CJ Stroud, bottom three quarterbacks in terms of getting sacked, or I guess top three in the league and getting sacked. All year, wide receivers getting hurt. Yeah, Joe Mixon's in and out of the lineup here and there. So yeah, not a whole lot of great things from the players in terms of the injury side of it. But even without that, I don't think the Bobby Slowick hype is as high as it is last year. I think either Bobby Slowick stays or he takes one of these lower jobs like the New York job. I definitely see him kind of maybe reaching for, maybe having a pretty good chance for as well. But I definitely see the Brian Flores thing in the line of thinking is right there as well. The Las Vegas Raiders are our last team for the coaching carousel. And looking at the tracked head coaches that they're looking at right now. Reaching out to Bill Belichick, obviously, that's the big one and the kind of biggest one that we've seen here. Also reaching out to Liam Cohen, Pete Carroll, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, and they've also had official interview requests for Todd Munkin, Steve Spagnuolo, and then again Johnson, Glenn. Those are official interview requests, and they actually do have a interview with Ben Johnson on Friday, as sources show. So they're they basically have all the big names out there. Anyone that we've already mentioned at this point, they want to go get them.
I won't be surprised if this is Ben Johnson. I think that's a terrible idea.
I
I
agree.
won't be surprised. Todd Munkin, I would not be surprised.
Mhm.
I know you're going to hate this. I know you're going to hate this. I'm going to
Okay.
say it. Cliff Kingsbury, I would not be surprised.
Oh fuck.
Um, you know, we're 5 days away from and I know you said this is our last one, but hopefully me mentioning this name can dwell this in this area also because it's something we should talk about before we come back on the podcast. We're 5 days away from the exclusive rights negotiation window for Mike McCarthy ending and him
Yeah.
being a free agent.
Right.
I would not be surprised if
Mm.
the Raiders, I mean, they're paying $40 million to four guys. They gotta pay Gruden, they gotta pay
Oh,
McDaniels, they
fuck.
gotta pay Pierce, and they gotta pay the new guy. So and that's the brokest owner in sports. So um
The Steelers have had like 3 coaches throughout their entire history, while the Raiders are going to be paying 4 on their payroll alone at one time.
w-
Fucking hell.
what are the Cowboys doing right now with Mike McCarthy? Um he's a free agent in 5 days.
Correct.
I'm gonna tell you my hopes and dreams are that they retain him because we kick his ass no matter where he's at. But if we don't retain him, I hope that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch offer John, is it Fassel or Fossil?
Fossil.
I
Yep.
hope they offer John Fossil the biggest special teams coordinator salary in the history of football because he's the best special teams coordinator in the NFL.
It's very
I
true.
mean, you
Very
guys,
true.
Brian, your punter, Brandon Aubrey, Turpentine,
Yep.
they've all excelled under him. So we got to offer him all the money. So part of me wants you guys to get rid of McCarthy for that. But
Yeah.
what are the Cowboys doing here? Are they They just gonna wait for funsies 5 more days
This
before they announce this extension?
Yeah, this is a good question. You asked me this if you would have asked me this 3 weeks ago, I would have said, "Mike McCarthy's staying." That's all the signs are pointing towards Mike McCarthy staying. I don't think that's gonna be any different. That's what I would tell you 2 or 3 weeks ago. The interviews, the comments, the signs all make me walk all of that back. And I would say, I don't know. I could see Mike McCarthy gone now at this point. Um, because Jerry has always been a very front, like, Mike is staying. Mike is staying. No different. Mike is staying. Mike is staying. Mike is staying. It's radio silence pretty much at this point. I know the players like Micah Parsons have said they want Mike McCarthy back or whatnot, but it's not really a factor. It's not Max Crosby saying I want Antonio Pierce, and then he gets fired a year later, and you have another wasted season. Um, I can see him gone, but we can't do this so late, and now we don't request interviews. We don't try to interview anyone, and if we don't try to, then now we're looking at promoting guys within. Um,
Oh, you're not I don't know if you're on the, got your, ear to the ground in the world, but you're not promoting someone from within, my man. The reason why there hasn't been an announcement is because your guys' next head coach has a college football game he's coaching tomorrow against Ohio State. Steve, Sark, the head coach of Texas, best believe he is on Jerry Jones' short list, which should be fucking scary to you because the other name I keep seeing all over the place is Jason Witten. So that was
oh
that
fuck.
that's like going from Bill Belichick to Jeff Saturday,
Yep.
going from Sark to
Oh my
Witten. But
gosh.
you best believe that Sark is you know that that is on,
Yeah.
which I don't know if Sark wants to leave to go to the Cowboys and give up a year of Arch Manning next year, but maybe Texas wins. Texas wins the national championship this year, and Sark becomes the new head coach for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, we'll definitely say, "Hey, man, I'll represent at all times." Um, but I will talk as much shit as I possibly can about the Dallas Cowboys at every opportunity, because I am just that pessimistic fan at every turn and chance. Let's go ahead and close out the coaching carousel.